This podcast is brought to you by lilybadcock.com and the Confidence Academy, giving you the confidence to be who you truly are. This is the Confidence Academy podcast. My name is Lily Badcock and I am a transformational confidence coach, and I'm here with a message for you. The anxiety and overwhelm you've been experiencing is not something to be feared or avoided. It's also not something that gets to define who you are as a person. No matter who you are, no matter what your story is, I know that you get to live a life of fulfillment and joy. It's my absolute pleasure to bring this podcast series to you in collaboration with some phenomenal people from all over the world who have walked the same path as you. Together, we will share our stories, our challenges, and our triumphs, with the intention of helping you to see that it's possible for you too. Anxiety may be something you live with, but it doesn't get to define who you are or how you live your life. So stand by for some powerful conversations, deep realizations, and the occasional F-bomb. So get those headphones in if you're around sensitive ears, and stand by. This is going to be fun.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Confidence Academy podcast. I'm annoyed at myself because yet again I've started this interview and I didn't press record, so now I've got to pretend like this is all happening for the first time, and it isn't. It's all being repeated. But anyway, I am so thrilled. I am thrilled truly to introduce to you a good friend of mine called Effie, who I've known. I was just saying that it was going to be depressing if I worked out how long we'd known each other. And we just worked out, I think, Effie, you were like 12 maybe when we met. Yeah. And she's definitely not 12 now, you guys. But Effie's on the show. She is a singer-songwriter. And we were just about to get into it. And I suddenly went, no, we're not recording. So let's just pretend that none of that happened. Effie, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, and I was just saying how much you used to shine. So Effie was in a singing group that I used to run or help to run here in Salisbury. And I was just saying how you can always see the ones, like people have this certain glow about them. And I was saying that it's not even about vocal ability or anything. It's just when somebody is doing what they were born to do, their soul shines out of their face, out of their ears, their eyes, like absolutely everywhere. And Effie was always that kid for me. Like you could just see her light up every time she sang. And it was just such a beautiful introduction. And I didn't press record, but I meant every word of it.
Thank you so much.
No, you're so welcome. And I was just sharing that it was no surprise to see, obviously I've seen you grow over the years and we've stayed in touch on social media and we've still got lots of friends in common. And to see your rise from that group, you know, it was just like a Saturday club, wasn't it? We just used to like sing and do little shows, to where you're at now is just phenomenal. And, you know, I really am going to get into this with you around, you know, really being true to your own soul and knowing what's for you and knowing that that's what you want to do. But I was just asking you to share the journey that you've been on in a snapshot from that time when you were just singing on a Saturday with your friends to where you're at now. What has that journey looked like for you?
Well, I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say thank you for saying about me. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome.
So, I mean, it's been a very long journey. It's been a very up and down journey. There's been a lot of lessons learned. I, as you have sort of explained and introduced, I have always been a singer. I've always sort of been on the stage. I've always known that that's what I wanted to do. And I was very lucky because both my parents have always been super supportive. They never held me back. They never said, you've got to go and get, and I'm quoting, real job, or anything like that. They've always been super supportive. And I guess I started my professional journey when I was like 15, where I was picked up at a talent competition in Southampton, and you had to go down and sing, and there was two categories. There was the adult and there was the children one, and I did the kids one because I was 15 at the time. And I sang, I won, and then the following week you got to go and open up for Lamar, because this was back in the day when big singers were coming to like clubs and doing PAs, which don't happen as often anymore. It's not really such a thing, but back then, that's what it was. And he heard me sing and was like, oh, I really want to work with this young girl. Who is this? So my auntie at the time, my mum and dad were on holiday, they weren't even there. So my auntie was like, oh my God, we're gonna have to call your mum and ask her. And so we met and we started working together, and I worked alongside Lamar. He was kind of my mentor, and I had management from that age up until I was about 20, 21. Then we went our separate ways with no bad reason at all. And I took a little break. Then I came back, did a little bit of DIY doing music, wasn't really sure what I was doing or what I was getting into. Then I took another break and moved to London. And that's kind of where the beginning of my journey kind of really began. Although I almost split my career so far into like 2 chapters. It's like the chapter when I was young, I was learning, I was very much sort of in the public eye at times and trying to navigate that. And then I came away, came back, figured out what I wanted to do. And for the last 3 years, I've really been on the beginning of my actual journey, if that makes sense. Yeah, I'm going to say about 3 years.
Yeah.
And so I've released a couple of singles. I think I started releasing again in 2019. Worship came out. And then since then I released a single called Fairy Tale, another one called Spiteful, and then most recently, just the end of last year, I released My Room, which is my favorite single to date. So yeah,
I love that, and I think that's the way it should be. I feel like each time you do something new, that's how it feels for me as well. I feel like I'm really on my path, and I mean my life's split into about 25 chapters at this point, but I really get what you mean though. You can really see, and at the time it feels like those times when you've been on a bit of a trajectory and you've been going along, and then something stops or it ends or you don't feel it anymore or whatever, it feels in the moment like a failure, or like or you've lost it, or you know, we get really frightened, I think, when that happens. And it's so great when you look back and go, no, I completely see why that happened the way it did, why that had to work out the way that it did. And the conversation I really want to have, and the reason that I invited you on here was because I wanted to, well, 2 things. First of all, obviously music is such an enormous part of your life. And as I'm going through my own journey and my own spiritual growth and all of that, I'm really starting to see the real magic of music. To me, I feel like it's a gift that the world has been given. And I think anybody that has the ability to write music, lyrics, or any kind of music at all has been put here for that purpose. And I feel like it's such a big deal. And I really wanted to have a conversation with you about how music has pulled you through, because I know that, I mean, for a start, you're in a career that's not an easy path, right? You're literally signing up for rejection pretty much, because that's 99% of the industry. You have to dig deep and know who you are and know why you're on that path to keep going through. So I would love to know how you've navigated that and how music has been that support for you as you've gone on that journey.
I mean, yeah, that's a bloody good question, that. I think there was a time when I was very frustrated because I felt that although I was doing what I was put on this earth to do, which I've always felt in my soul and in my gut, I've never known how I'm going to make this work, but it is going to work. I've always just known that. But when I was younger, and in the days when I was working like with Lamar and his team, I didn't know what I wanted to do in terms of like what kind of artist I wanted to be, because I was, you know, between the ages of 15 and 20, like who knows what they're doing at that age. Although nowadays it does feel like all these youngsters know exactly what they're doing. I don't know. Very different ball game to me now. But yeah, so there was times when I was like, I know this isn't right. There was something in my gut when I was younger. I was like, I'm doing this, I'm pushing for this, but I'm not passionate about it. I'm making music. And as much as I love music, and music is definitely my therapy, the type of music I was producing and putting out, I wasn't happy. And I'm so glad that happened to me, because it's now led me to slowly know what kind of artist I want to be. And I kind of had to go through all that shit just to get to where I am now. And now it makes sense. But at the time I was like, oh, like this is so annoying. I've got all these opportunities and for some reason it's just not falling into place how I want it to. But I listened to my gut again. I always listen to my gut, and I kind of pulled the plug on things. There was a time when things could have really kind of blown up for me, and I was like, actually, this isn't what I want to do. And it took for me to step back in order to come back into it again. And I think that's really important in anything that people do in life. I think if you're not really feeling it, even if you know that the innate thing you were supposed to do is in that field, if you aren't passionate, then you have to take a step back and listen to yourself. That was really important. Music in general, there was a time when, so I don't know if you remember this, but I had quite a poorly voice. And for years and years, I was like, I could feel something was not right. And I would try and sing certain things. I'm thinking, why can't I get that? Why am I forcing this? And my technique was off, and it took me actual years. And it was actually Chris Johnson so big up Chris Johnson, because it was him who initially said to me, look, I really think you should go and get this checked out. So I went to a guy called Dr. John Rubin, and he put a camera down my throat and I had nodules. And eventually, after trying to get rid of it with physiotherapy and stuff, they were like, you know what, it's been 2 years, we've tried this, it's not working, we'll give you surgery. So in 2018 I had vocal surgery. The most scared I have ever been in my life. Like I was thought, because you just don't know what can happen. You think, well, I could wake up with no voice. Is my voice going to change? Yeah, it was terrifying. But then afterwards, after the surgery and after I continued physiotherapy and speech therapy, all of a sudden it was like I was reborn, because I didn't realize I'd been holding this weight, this frustration, because I couldn't do what I knew I could do with my voice. And I hadn't realized it had such an impact on my my mental health, just the I was quite an angry person. I was quite highly strung. And then afterwards I was like, oh my God, like I'm back. I am me. I feel me. And I realized how much music and just the ability, just being able to sing day to day is what keeps me sane.
Yeah, I so resonate with that. And I mean, I think I did know that. And Chris Johnson has had a shout out on this podcast before, because he brought my voice back too. And I don't know about you, but oh God, we could literally get into this for hours. But my whole voice loss came at a time when my whole view of the world had been shattered. I think I'd lived in a bubble up until that point. I was really fortunate. I had a really nice childhood. Nothing awful happened to me. You know, you hear all these stories of people that, you know, went through awful things when they were younger, and I don't have any of those stories. I've just had the most blessed life. And I was living in this bubble, and I absolutely just trusted, a bit like you. I just knew I was all right. I absolutely knew I was all right. And I think some of that was, you know, my parents' upbringing. We are quite a religious family, so there was a lot of faith talk, you know, a lot of just belief. And even though part of my journey, like when I lost my voice, I lost all of my faith, completely lost faith in absolutely everything. I didn't know what I believed. Nothing made sense. Everything I'd been taught growing up, I was like, that can't be real. And the same as you, it was like, I don't know who I am. If I can't sing, then put me down, because what's the point? Like, I'm here to do this. That's the only thing I was ever good at. Like, it was the only thing that, and I don't even think it was an ego thing. It was genuinely, I just knew I'm supposed to do this. And if I can't do this, then I don't understand my place in this world. I really don't. And I mean, that led to severe anxiety in my part. And I know that we were going to get into that conversation as well, because I mean, that is a huge conversation. I really believe that, and not in all cases, but in a lot of cases of mental health, where especially where people have developed it. So not so much people that have had it their whole life, but people that develop anxiety, depression, stress, all of those things. I believe now it's because you're not in alignment with who it is you're supposed to be. in some way you're not showing up for what you want. You're like, maybe you're trying to stuff yourself into a box to please other people, or maybe you've convinced yourself that you can't do something. And when my voice broke, that was what I did. I was like, oh, well, I suppose, like, all the way along, I trusted this is what I'm meant to do. This is what I'm meant to do. And then I let my brain get the better of me. And it was like, it can't be what I'm meant to do. If God has taken my voice away, I'm not supposed to sing. And I convinced myself of that. And I've never been more miserable. Like, it, because, you know, when you're miserable because your soul knows it's not true, like, that's, to me, that's depression, is when your soul knows something different and your human is trying to go, no, it's all right, I'll just go and do this other thing, I don't have to sing, you know. And so I really, really hear you on that. And I think it is a long journey. I'd be interested to know how you feel about your voice now, because for me, my voice definitely came back. But it's never been the same. It won't ever be. And if I hear recordings of myself, I still feel a little bit like that was my voice. And I don't have that anymore. And I think a lot of it isn't even physical. A lot of it's just mental.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, for me, I was very, very lucky that it was kind of, so for me, having the surgery, getting rid of the injury, essentially, I was running on a broken voice for years.
Yeah.
And looking back retrospectively, I was like, this is why I was so frustrated all the time. I wasn't making things that I wanted to make. I wasn't stepping into my full self because my voice couldn't, because, you know, it's like having a broken leg and trying to be an athlete.
Right.
I couldn't do it. So for me, it had the opposite effect. As soon as I had that surgery, and after the 2 weeks of not being able to utter a single sound, which was probably one of the toughest things I've ever done, but big up my mum and dad to get through that. After that, my voice is in the best place it's ever been.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm really thankful for the doctor and for the team that I essentially had around me, which is all on the NHS as well. So again, big up the NHS. We're going to big up a lot of people today. So I was very, 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 very grateful, and it just felt like, right, now I can start again, and I can kind of start afresh and start training my voice as I should be. And I started to get quite religious with my vocal training, and I started being trained by a guy called Josh Alamu, who I think Chris actually put me
in. Love him.
Yeah, he's amazing. And he basically helped me to bring my voice back. And now I just feel like the possibilities are endless with it. And I just want to keep improving and be the best that I can be in my field. And I've been given an opportunity to do that. And yeah, like I said, looking back now, I'm like, God, no wonder you were miserable. Also, I think being a musician, as a lot of people will know, and if there's people listening that are musicians who are also working, I've always worked. So especially when I first moved to London, I had to work. I don't rely on my parents. I don't, ask for help in that way. It's like, right, I'm going to come here. If I have to work 3 jobs, I'll work 3 jobs. And that's what I did. And my anxiety and depression at that time was so deeply ingrained in me, and you just hit the nail on the head, because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. So yes, I'm kind of doing music here on the side, but I'm having to do all these things to survive so that I can do that. And by doing that, your body and your brain is like, hey, like, what's happening here? Like, you're being pulled in all these different directions. And for the last year, pandemic aside, my anxiety has been the best it's ever been. And I think the reason for that is because I've been focusing on music and music only.
Yeah. And that's a huge leap of faith. That, and, you know, even the thought of that would make somebody anxious, because on paper, it makes no sense, right? On paper, it makes sense to do the 3 jobs because you need the money. But I'm learning more and more that everything is energy. Everything is energy. And when you back yourself energetically, you take that leap, the net appears. It really, really does. And, you know, I think this pandemic, and I know we sort of touched on this a bit before we went on the air as well, this pandemic has been a huge time of awakening for people. And it's been a frightening time, because almost everyone has been put through that. It's like, oh, you know, that security you think you had, well, that's gone. Like, that thing that you thought you could rely on, no, you can't rely on that. Like, you know, you've got your own thoughts, your own space. You can't go anywhere. You can't see anyone. I think over the years, and I'm talking hundreds of years, I think we've become a human race that, you know, we just create based on past experience. We look around and go, oh, well, that person's doing that, so I should probably just do that. Or, you know, or that dream looks like that, so that's therefore what I have to do. I think we're in a stage now where consciousness is shifting, and we're learning, whether people realize it or not, we're learning that we have the wisdom inside of us. There's no blueprint. There's nothing, you know, your soul recognizes what's for you. So you can still be inspired by somebody else. You can still recognize something elsewhere that is a path you might want to follow. But I think we are coming out of that phase of trying to do the right thing, right? I mean, when I was growing up, it was you go to school, you go to college, you get a job, you do that job till you're nearly dead, then you get a watch for good service, and then you sit in an old people's home until you die, right?
Right.
I mean, doesn't that just sound like the biggest bunch of bollocks you've ever heard? Like I just think we're here to not on even on a human level, on a spiritual level, we are souls. We've come to expand and evolve and teach and grow and learn, and I think that's what this is all about. And I just think there was a unbelievable amount of people that were living the wrong life. They were doing the wrong thing, and they were telling themselves that that's just how it's got to be. So it's how it's got to be because I need to make money, or it's how it's got to be because that's just how it is. And that's where I think we're at right now. And I know that this conversation is going to move into the whole thing that has started to happen. And I like every now and then, every few months or so, something enormous happens that affects the entire world. And it started with the global pandemic, right? And of course, it didn't start there. This has been happening all along. For some reason, we are now paying attention where people didn't pay attention before. So first off, we had the global pandemic. I think that was the first time in a lot of people's lifetimes when they switched on the news and the thing they were watching was happening on their doorstep and not like 1,000 miles away or in another country. So that brought a new level of realness to it. And then, of course, we had this big George Floyd, you know, explosion of just this race conversation and just this whole new level of education. And, you know, I'm a white woman talking to you, and people can't see you, but you identify as a Black woman, right?
Yeah,
and
mixed race, yeah.
Mixed race. So your mum is Black and your dad is white, is that right?
Yes.
And so we're talking from these two sides, and I'll be super honest with you. I've always considered myself not racist because I've never judged anyone based on their skin color. I've never thought to myself, oh, I can't talk to that person or walk past that person or buy that thing because of anyone's skin color. So I was quite happy in my own self going, I'm not racist. The George Floyd conversation taught me that I was racist on levels I didn't even know. There was white privilege on subconscious levels that it was such privilege that I didn't even know because I never had to think about it. And I think that has been so hard for people. People don't like to be told like that little bubble you've been living in, it was not real. Like, and I think, you know, I mean, I'm maybe giving myself props here, but we said we were giving props, so I'm going to give them to myself. I think I've spiritually grown enough to the point where I'm comfortable being challenged. I can actually sit and be told, you don't have an opinion about that. Like, you can't have an opinion about that because you've never experienced that. You know, I was someone, and I'm being really honest now, I was somebody in the past that would have gone, oh, well, it's racist if a Black person calls out a white person,
right?
Versus the other way, right? I've learned that that's not true now. And the beautiful thing was, the other day, one of my boys, it was either Louis or Freddie, I can't remember which one of them it was, but I want to say Louis, which made it even better because Louis is autistic and doesn't often ask questions about others. But out of nowhere, he said to me, he said, oh, so if somebody calls somebody a name because they're Black, that's racist. And I said, yes. And he went, so if a Black person calls a white person a name, is that racist? And I said, no, it's not. And he was like, why? And I said, and I was able to explain to him the history that I had no idea about until this happened. Now, what happened was tragic. It should never, ever, ever have happened. But on a spiritual level, I feel like, I mean, I still believe every soul comes here for a purpose. I have to believe that George Floyd's purpose was to switch that around. It was to be the person that he was, for that to happen, for people to stop and go, oh my God, like, I didn't even know that this was a thing, right? I didn't even know that this was an issue. And like the pain that, you know, I've now spoken to lots of people, and probably still not enough, right? I don't think it's ever enough. But I really made sure to read the blogs of Black people when they were speaking out at that time. Yep. I really made sure to check myself and to not go, oh, I have an opinion about that. It was like, no, you need to stop and listen just now.
Yeah.
From your perspective, and you're living in London as well, so I mean that was a hotbed of activity around that, right? I mean, it's our capital, so it was inevitable. How was that for you, and what's your view on that whole situation?
So first of all, I'm going to say thank you, because I think when people are able to do and say what you just have, and to say, actually, no, I'm going to listen, I'm going to learn, and I want to do that. And you recognize those things, and you recognize the privilege and all of that. That's so helpful to the conversation, and I'll speak on behalf of us all. We appreciate it. So thank you, because it allows the conversation to go further. For me, being in London, there was a lot of worry at the time because I was protesting. I went to 3 protests. I wasn't being, fuck the pandemic, whatever. But at the time, it was a case of, these are human rights issues. And yes, there is a global pandemic, but right now, this needs to happen. And we can't control that. I can't sit back and not be heard. And it was a real journey for me too, because I'll be honest, there were days that I couldn't get out of bed. I was emotionally drained. I was so tired. I was so exhausted. And it was from conversations. It was just from the emotional turmoil, because again, coming back to the awakening, what I feel like it did for many Black and mixed race people, we all know individually what we go through on a daily basis. And when I say we, I also know that as a mixed race, and I'm what we would deem as a light-skinned mixed race person, I also have privilege compared to my darker brothers and sisters. So I'm also aware of that. But the journey that we all go on and have been on, and what our history is, the trauma that is in us from our ancestors, it was like there was an awakening collectively for us. And it was like it banded us together, and there was this support system because we were all being there for one another. But at the same time, it was like our pain was being recognized collectively. And that was really hard, because it brought a lot of stuff to the surface. Because when you go through life as a person of color, things are a certain way and you get used to it. And I'm going to liken it to what's happening right now with women. Things that we go through every day without realizing that we do, for all of a sudden, for somebody to say something, or for an event or something to happen, or something terrible, for someone to die, for that to happen, for this thing to like just come on and say, oh my God, we all do this, we all go through this. It was like we were given permission to collectively hear our pain and our outcry. And that is what I feel happen. I also, I had a lot of conversations with people. Some were good, some were bad, some were frustrating. I have stopped speaking to certain family members. I had some very heated discussions with my own dad, who, as much as I love my father, his point of view, it's at certain points he just didn't want to listen. And I think it was actually because he could see and hear the pain, not because he wasn't believing it, but because he just didn't want to admit that that was my experience or my mum's experience. And again, very lucky, because I don't want to say lucky, actually, that was the wrong word, but I was brought up in Salisbury, which is a very white middle class city, the size of a town. So my experience as a child was very different. There was the side of it that was, I was different, and I did have a hard time at points. Coming to London, I felt free. I felt free.
Yeah.
There were more people that looked like me. The culture I was able to immerse myself in. Also, I don't come from, I'm not straight African heritage or Caribbean heritage. My mum is African American, so, and Native American. So I don't have the culture side of it, if that makes sense. Me and a friend of mine, his dad was American, and so we don't have the secondhand culture from those countries to also like attach ourselves to and immerse ourselves in, and that can sometimes be difficult. That's a whole other thing, but yeah.
No, I get it. I think and you've brought up a really good point, because now, of course, we're having this conversation about women, and I'm going to liken it back to what you shared about your voice. Even it's amazing what you will put yourself through when you think that that's just how it has to be, and when it just becomes your normal, right? And I think, you know, your voice is kind of the physical representation of that. Like, look at the damage that was being done by not turning and going, this is broken, this needs to be sorted, right? There's something that needs to be fixed. And I don't know about your thoughts around how we move forward from this. Again, I think it's really difficult because everybody has their idea about what that looks like, and of course everybody's ideas come from their situation and they're looking through their lens. To me, you know, I mean, obviously when it was the race conversation, I am a white female, like that's it, there's nothing else to it. So that was the side that I was on, and then it was up to me to listen and learn. Now the conversation is about women. Suddenly I'm one of the ones that is going, oh wait, like, yeah, you know, I've seen lots of people sharing their stories on social media to raise the awareness, and I went to do the same, and then I didn't, because I was like, people will know who I'm talking about, and I don't want to put that person in that situation. And that's the point, isn't it? It's like even now, like, what happened was not correct, but my situation wasn't, you know, like some people are raped and that's it, they know it was rape. My situation, I think it probably would class as that, but it didn't feel, there was a lot of confusion around that just because of the situation that it was. And for that reason, I still don't think that I can share that story, because people who know me will track back and they'll know who that's about. And I don't want to be the reason that somebody's life gets difficult, you know, but that's the conversation to me. And I've been seeing, you know, these posts, a lot of anger. Again, it's polarizing. All of these things that are happening are polarizing the entire world. It's drawing a big line down the middle and going, pick a side. Like, you either think this or you think that. And I know that, you know, when it was the race conversation, there was a lot of people going, like, we just need to be heard. And, you know, like you talked about the collective trauma and the pain that came out of that. Like, it's going to take a minute. I still think we're in that, right? It's not like it's like it came up and now we're
at the beginning of a very, very long and hard wave of this happening. And then the thing is for Black people and people of color, we've already been on this because we are living it. And now, and I think the frustrating thing for a lot of people, and to both topics, actually, to women and when we're talking about race, the problem is people think that they have opinions on these things. You can't have an opinion on a human rights issue, because human rights are human rights, and that's what we're talking about. So you have to try and reframe it so that people understand that actually, no, you can't have an opinion on something that is a human rights issue. That's not it. We have to look at facts and statistics and experience. And also, I saw a woman the other day say that she is a woman who has never experienced sexual abuse of any kind, and that women need to grow up and stop being victims, and which was quite shocking and very hurtful, especially coming from a woman. And what I wanted to say to her was, I didn't actually, but I wish that I had, was that your experience does not dictate anyone else's experience. If you haven't been through that, amazing. I'm so pleased for you. Same with racism. You might be a Black person who's never experienced racism. I highly doubt it, but you might be. And if you didn't, great, good for you. But your experience does not mean that everybody else's experience isn't true. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, exactly that. And I think there are so many issues as well, like sub issues that are maybe not as huge as the race issue. And obviously now we're talking about the female thing as well. But to me, I was thinking about this recently, and I felt more able to have this thought. Now it's about women because I'm a woman, right? And I've experienced, like, so many times, you know, guys just saying what they want. I like when I used to go to clubs, there was one guy when I was on my hen do, a guy, I was dancing and I was wearing an oversized t-shirt as well. So it's not even like I was dressed up, not that that would make any difference at all. But, you know, some people say, oh, were you asking for it the way you were dressed? I don't think so, because I was in an oversized t-shirt, you know, in my gladiator sandals.
Even if you hadn't have been, you weren't asking for it. You can wear
exactly.
You should be able to walk in there naked if that so pleases you.
Exactly. And this guy put his camera between my legs when I was dancing and took a picture. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I went batshit crazy. I grabbed him. I don't even know where it came from, because I'm not a confrontational person, and I am such a fence sitter normally. I don't like to cause trouble. Yeah. But I was livid, and I just spun around. I don't know if he thought he was going to manage to do it without me noticing, but I felt it. I felt something tickle my leg, and I looked down and there he was. And I grabbed him by the scruff and I shoved him against the bar. And I was like, you delete those now. And he was like, chill out, love, chill out, love. And that's the thing, isn't it? Like, that's just one story. I've probably got a million like that. But I was like, you fucking prick. Like, what gives you the right to do that? I was like, you delete him now. And I made him do it. And I watched him while he did it. But, you know, there were so many things, even on just that break. I think I went for 7 days, like every day something happened, because it was Ayia Napa. It's club culture. It's rife, right? Yeah. But I feel like now with the conversation that's been happening, and, you know, the outcry for, you know, men to have that curfew. And I don't know how serious that person was when they said it, but I think they were just making the point, like, exactly, like, look how shocked you are that we're telling you to stay in, but that's what we have to do. Like, that's exactly how you feel. And I saw lots of people posting and going, oh, that, you know, well, some people were going, absolutely, lock up the men. And other people were going, that's ridiculous. If you think men should be locked up, you can unfriend me now. And I was like, do you know what? I try and see everything now through a spiritual lens. To me, and this on some levels may be, what do they call it? Like bypassing. And I'm not trying to bypass, but I try and see everything from a bigger lens. Yeah. And it was like, I just feel like every single one of these things that comes around is an opportunity for us to really see each other. It's an opportunity to appreciate and go, do you know, you can't keep living in your bubble. You can't keep going, this is me, this is my experience, so therefore those are the rules, that's how the world works. Mm-hmm. It's an opportunity to really bring like true equality, right? And not to say that exists, because it doesn't, but to say that that's what we want, right? That's the goal, and that's what we work for. And so I don't think it would help for, you know, say the men and women thing. Like, sure, we could lock the men up, but like, what does that really do? All that does is it polarizes another group of people. I also think that as much as women get groped in clubs and stuff, like, it's easier to believe it when it's a man. If that had been a guy walking through Clapham Common and a woman had killed him, it would have been a completely different conversation, because people wouldn't have believed it. And then that's a thing as well, right? There's all these pockets of things. And to me, I just feel like it's we're being asked on every single time this happens to stop and appreciate somebody else's experience. It happened in a Facebook group, literally, I think it was earlier this week or the end of last week, where I posted a thread because our 9-year-old is autistic, or they think he is, and we're going through the assessment process. And I was just posting for support, just like, has anyone got any books and links and blah, blah, blah. And everyone was really, really helpful. And then one lady posted and said, because lots of people were saying, oh, don't use, there was a certain technique, I can't remember what it was called, but they were like, there's a technique that's really outdated that they've used for years with autistic children, which basically is trying to teach them not to be autistic, which to me would be like trying to teach someone not to be gay. Like, it's bullshit, right? If you're autistic, you're autistic. And I think it's about celebrating what somebody is. And if what you are is autistic, that's a beautiful thing. It's the way it's meant to be. Let's support that. That's how you thrive, right? You don't try, like, it would be like telling a black person to try and be less black, right? You're not, you're black. So like, be what you are. And this woman, after lots of autistic people had written how damaging that process was, somebody then came in and went, as a, how did she call herself? Neuro, whatever it was, like, you know, not autistic person, basically. As someone like that, I can tell you that a friend of mine works with autistic children and adults, and she uses that technique, and it works brilliantly. And it was like, then this conversation shifted, and it was all these autistic people going, we are autistic. We are telling you that that is damaging. You are not autistic. So you can't, it's like you said, you can't have that opinion because you're not autistic. You know, it's like saying, I mean, it's like all the examples I've given, right? It's just, and it was such a lesson for me, because in the beginning I was like, oh, I don't like how they're all jumping on this woman. I don't like that for anyone. I don't like anyone being singled out, bullied. And she was genuinely posting to be helpful. And I didn't like how everyone was like, ugh. Yeah. And then I got into a conversation on a private message with one of the autistic ladies, and she explained, she was like, this is the thing, this is ableism. You're trying to make someone who's autistic fit the box, and we don't fit the box, you know?
Yeah.
And again, I was like, oh my God, that's another opportunity to sit down and shut up and be like, do you know what? I'm not autistic. You're autistic. So let me listen to your experience. Let me understand it. Let me be honest and say, I don't get it because I haven't lived it. But as a human being to a human being, I love you, I honor you, and I hear you, and let me hear about your experience so that together we can make it better, you know?
But if everyone was like that, wouldn't the world be lovely?
I just think a world of lilies would be a wonderful place indeed.
It would be great. I mean, it's hard because people come from all sorts of backgrounds. They have all different types of level of education in terms of different topics that are circulating the world. And you can't be in control of the information that people read. There's a lot of fake news. There's a lot of fake propaganda. I mean, look at the bloody pandemic. People, you know, with the conspiracies and this and that. And, you know, you can't control what people consume. And that's really hard. But I think always trying to keep the conversation open and being respectful and trying. Some people are a lost cause. I will say that. Some people, they just really are just stuck in their ways. They don't want to hear it. And if people don't want to listen, you can't make them listen. You can only, I think, talk to people and have meaningful, progressive conversation with people who are willing to. If they're not, there's no point in wasting your time and energy in trying to do that, because the only person you end up kind of hurting is what I've learned through a lot of this is yourself. You just get frustrated and you think, oh, why am I even trying? You don't want to hear. So no, you're so right. And I believe that we are the wave. I think we're the generation, and I say we, you're like about 90 years younger than me, but you know, I think we're the generation that came to be the change makers. We're the ones, like, you know, like you talked earlier about that like that trauma coming to the surface and bubbling up. It was like, you guys have been built strong to take that as hard as it is, and
And I'll talk about, you know, it isn't just people going through the race thing. It's every disabled person. It's every person of color. It's every woman who isn't a man. It's every man who isn't a woman, right? We are the generation that have been sent, I believe, to kind of reset it. I mean, I was talking to a lady the other day. She felt her energy was so powerful. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow. And, you know, and our whole conversation was about how she had like her human sort of, you know, way of being that everyone sees. And then she had her magic that she was hiding away. Wow. And I was like, what if you've been sent? What if you've been sent down? What if you're one of these, you know, if there's such thing as like, I don't know, a grand master or like, you know, sort of spiritual leaders that are normally up in the ether and they're like, damn, the world's fucked, we need to go in, right? What if that's what we are? Like that, like you said, it isn't everyone, but there are enough people, there are enough of us who have the strength to be that, like who have the strength to go, do you know what? I'll sit down with a black person as a white woman and I will have this conversation and I will let you tell me how fucking wrong I got it, and I will take it on my shoulders, and then I will campaign and I will stand up and I will try my hardest to make as many other people as possible feel the same way and be willing to do the same thing. And I think, I'm on my soapbox, I think we're the change makers. I really believe that. And I just agree. You know, to anyone listening who feels, you know, because I don't know what circles you're in. I think if you have someone in your circle who can do that for you, then you're fortunate. And I know that isn't everyone's experience. So I think if you are someone that feels surrounded by people who aren't willing to listen, like Effie said, then know that there are people willing to listen and, you know, reach out. I mean, Effie, I'm going to get you in the Facebook group. So if anybody wants to have a conversation about this in the Facebook group, then, you know, we'll welcome that as well. But I just think this is it. It can't be a quick fix. I think what you talked about earlier, you know, you mentioned your dad and the fact that, you know, he found it hard. And of course, he doesn't want to feel that his little girl and his wife has been in that pain that he didn't even see. Mm-hmm. People are afraid to have their glass, you know, balls broken. They've been in this lovely experience. I was like that once as well. I was like, I don't want to know about that. I just want my life to be lovely. But life can be lovely, but it has to be lovely for everybody. If it isn't lovely for everybody, it's not lovely. Absolutely. You know, and that's where I've got to. My freedom doesn't matter if someone else can't be free. It doesn't count for shit. It's not it's not even a thing. It's not true freedom. It's a complete illusion. And the thing is, if it can happen to one person, it can happen to any person. And we are like, I'm a mother of 3. I've got 3 opportunities to create real change in the world by having those conversations that I talked about. And I'm not saying that so that I get a flag or a fucking badge of honor or certificate or something. It is
what it is. That's
what it is.
That's what you do. And I think education is really important because people are very quick to think they know what they're speaking about and what they're speaking because of what they consume or because of their own experience. But I think for me, the message is what people have to remember is just because that's been your experience doesn't mean that that's somebody else's experience. And also be mindful of the information that you read. And if you want to speak on a topic, do your research. Please look into that. Please read about it. Read the history. Read where that's come from. Listen to the people who have experienced that, no matter what the group is, whether it's Black people, whether it's women, whatever it might be. Do your research. And if you really want to have a meaningful conversation, because there is no point in you speaking on emotion. You can't have a meaningful conversation based on emotion. You have to have the facts to back it up. I often will challenge my parents. If my parents have views on things, I'll say, okay, Dad, so why do you think that? What has led you to believe this? Or Mum, okay, that's interesting that you think that. Why? Please let me know so that we can then continue that conversation, because a lot of the time it's, oh, well, I just you just what? Oh, well, I heard it on Facebook, or I saw my friends told me that, or it's been like that forever. And it's like, well, just because something's been a certain way doesn't mean that's correct. We were enslaved at one point. That wasn't okay. Women didn't have rights at one point. That wasn't okay. Just because something's way doesn't mean that that's cool. I think that's really important as well.
I agree. And I think that was highlighted recently, you know, with Meghan Markle, the amount of, I was blown away by the amount of people going, you know, I don't like her. Why? Do you know her? You don't know her. And, you know, I mean, I didn't post a lot about it, but I did post something along the lines of, be very careful about your opinion, because Meghan Markle doesn't give a shit about you. You're probably never going to meet her. But the person in your circle who's been secretly battling anxiety and has been afraid to speak out is reading what you're writing. And if your opinion counts for Meghan Markle, then your opinion counts for everything, right? That's your opinion. You're putting your flag in the ground and going, that's what I think about mental health. And, you know, at a time where I was starting to hope that maybe the stigma was lessening and we were in a different place, it was like, shit. No, like it was terrifying. She might be the worst human being on the planet. I don't know her. I don't think so, but it wouldn't matter. Nobody deserves to go through that.
Well, I think it also comes back down to, are we allowed to go? Have we gone over an hour? Does that matter?
Yeah, it always goes over an hour, Effie. It was going to happen.
Not at all. I haven't got anything right now, so
we'll go till 4 a.m. Buckle up.
I think that when we were having that conversation about Meghan and Harry in the interview, what was really interesting was, yet again, people don't want to admit that there are such ingrained racist views that are in our system as a society. People don't like to admit that, well, actually, within our royal family, this exists. Within our society, this exists. And again, it ends up coming down to the Black community to have to highlight it again. Guys, hello, we're telling you, this is our experience, and this is how it is. And when people don't want to listen, it's hurtful. And we don't know Meghan, but the point is, if she's sitting on a TV show to say to the world, they know what they're doing. They're saying, I wasn't listened to when I was suicidal. I have been absolutely trashed as a human being. Lies after lies had been told about her in the press. And she also has the documents to back up everything that she said. I read something afterwards that they had released to say that she does have the receipts, essentially, to back up. And people still don't want to listen. And that shows how ingrained it is in society. And that's the scariest part. And that's why I really want to use my voice, challenge people, educate people, because I've said it again, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't want my children to go through what I've had to go through as a woman and as a person of color. I don't want it. And I don't think it's going to be that easy. I don't think it's going to be a case of, okay, everything's going to be smooth sailing by the time I have children, but I want it to be easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know, the thing that baffled me as well, and I mean, Piers Morgan should never have said what he said. It was the ridiculous thing to say, but he's hot-headed and I don't think he was thinking it through. But the thing that made me really sad was, we're still missing the point, because even though what he did was wrong and that he said the wrong thing, absolutely 100%, but then for everyone to now jump on him, he's also a human being, and now he's being dragged through the hedge backwards on the press. And I just think that's what really needs to stop. It's all this witch hunt, right?
I think there's a difference between holding someone accountable for what they say and trashing someone. So the people that were saying, Piers, you can't dish it out. You have to come with the same energy. You can't say nasty things about a person and then expect people to be like, oh, poor Piers, because they're not going to. People are seeing and hearing what your behavior and your actions, and they're going to match that. And you have to be and see what you want to be and see. essentially.
Yeah.
But there is a difference. I really do think that there is a difference between holding someone accountable and having a constructive conversation and actually just saying, look, Piers, you can't expect to behave this way and then everyone be supportive. Equally, yeah, don't fight fire with fire. We can't, start calling Piers every name under the sun and making that think that it's going to make a change, because it's not.
Yeah.
And I said it, but
yeah, exactly. And and that's the thing. I think, especially in this online world, I think we all forget that we're human. Like, I even saw a post this morning, and it wasn't anything to do with anyone famous, but it was in a post and in a Facebook group, and it was essentially about something, another person in the industry who's done a bunch of stuff that people don't agree with, right? And and quite rightly, they made some really bad choices around the George Floyd time, which polarized their entire group, and it ended up all falling apart. But then this post this morning, to me, again, it's, let's all, it was bringing it back up, and it didn't need to be brought back up. I just think there's, like you said, some people can't be helped, some people can be helped. It has to be positive, constructive energy towards creating the change you actually want to see. So if we're just going to go on another witch hunt, that's just another witch hunt. Whether it's correct or not, whether the energy behind it is the right thing to do or not, it is still a witch hunt if you're calling names and you're not being constructive. And I absolutely agree with what you said there.
There's a difference. It's two separate things, and it's getting people to see the difference. It's like when people were saying, oh well, Meghan and Piers, they wanted to get away from the press, and now they've gone and done this. And I'm like, guys, like, come on, let's think about this, critically think. There is a difference between being hounded by the British press and having false things printed about you on almost a daily basis, and you then removing yourself from the situation and then taking control of the narrative.
Yeah.
Different things.
Yeah.
And trying to get people to see that is a challenge in itself.
It's going to be exhausting work for the people willing to do it. Like we've said already, it isn't going to be one incident and then it's done. It's a year since, or just over a year since, Caroline Flack took her own life. Yeah, she took her life because of what she was being targeted because of what was being written in the papers, and she couldn't deal with what was coming at her. And how it was being reported. I actually had one of her friends on the podcast who saw it from that side of things. And, so that's what I'm mindful of now. And again, that was a conversation around mental health, and people just go, oh, but what do, like I heard people say this about Meghan as well. Oh yeah, I feel really sorry for you in your palace. Like how miserable could you be in a palace? Really fucking miserable, actually. Yeah, it's worse. It's much worse. If you are someone that presents as, full of life and, and got everything going for you, it's 100 times worse. Because when you're struggling, you don't understand why either. You're asking the same questions.
People don't realize that just because you might not be struggling financially does not mean that you may not be struggling spiritually. The two don't cancel each other out. You can be the richest person in the world and be miserable. You can be the poorest person in the world and be the happiest person. These things, they don't cancel each other out. And I think it's actually harder for people who are in the public eye if they're struggling, because they're in the public eye. They have to take that into account. And yes, she didn't ask for it. She wanted to engage into a relationship with someone who was a prince, but she said she went into it naively. She's a human being. She didn't sit there and go, okay, right, well, if I do this, then I may be vilified by the British press and be at the hands of racism on a mass scale. I could target here. Maybe I shouldn't date him. That wasn't necessarily going to go through her head. If you like somebody and you fall in love, that's not something that you think about.
Yeah, so absolutely.
I don't accept when people say, oh, well, she knew what she was getting into.
No. And also, she's not British. Like, we're a little bit arrogant if we think everybody understands how the royal. I mean, I wouldn't know what to do. There's so many fucking rules about who you've got to curtsy in front of and the order of it. Like, even the family get that wrong. So much. So, you know, like, you know, I saw people writing about, oh, there's no way she didn't Google it, or, well, maybe, but I don't know how much of the how much correct information she'd have got from that. And also, as someone herself who was a celebrity and of that level, I think it's perfectly reasonable to expect that she probably just thought it was a similar thing. Like, they're well known in England, I'm well known in the States, it's probably the same. Like, why would you assume? Like, who goes around having to curtsy? It's not normal. Like, no, it's royalty. And if you're not in that, like, I wouldn't have known, and I'm British, you know, and okay, maybe I would have, because I'm British, maybe I would have gone, well, there's going to be some stuff I have to do. But I mean, if she did, she did. If she didn't, she didn't. Who gives a shit? The point is, nobody knows. Everyone's casting aspersions and having an opinion on something they don't actually know about. And all of this comes back to, like, get in your own fucking lane. Every single person in this world has come here for a purpose. We've all got the chance to shine. If you are looking at someone else doing well or whatever, and you want to fill your time dragging that person down or trying to tell them that they're wrong or whatever, like, mate, you're losing out on your life. Like, you get to live an amazing life, and you get to make a real difference as well for the things that matter to you. And that's going to be different for everybody. But it's such a conversation that needs to be had.
I think if people are living in their truth, then they generally, like you say, they tend to be happier. Normally, people that you know, write really disparaging things and not very nice things, they aren't happy within themselves. There's something inside them that makes them unhappy, and we kind of know that. So I sometimes think to myself, okay, this person's got a lot of anger inside them, probably isn't anything to do with me, probably isn't anything to do with the topic that we're talking about. They're just probably quite angry, and there's a reason for that, and that's why they're behaving. And it doesn't mean that it's okay, but I try and be understanding and think, okay, right, why would that person have that viewpoint? Why are they not wanting to listen and to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I think, you know, we hear it all the time, but it's so true. I don't know anybody truly aligned in their life that would even give 5 minutes to trying to drag another person down, because it doesn't lead to anything. It's always a reaction, and it's usually coming from and that's their soul trying to communicate with them. It's like, do you know what, if you're jealous of someone, your soul is telling you that that's for you as well. Like, you can have that. If you're jealous because someone's got a whole load of money or a nice house or because they're famous or whatever it might be, your soul knows that that's possible for you too. And if you stopped putting all your energy into trying to knock that person off their stool and realize that you can be up there as well. This is the thing, like, somebody being happy doesn't mean we can't be. And I think that's a absolute
around
exactly it's I heard a funny analogy once where somebody said it's a bit like going, oh, I'm going to go out and catch a cold this week because I haven't had a cold for a while. Like, from the idea that if you get a cold, someone else doesn't get a cold. It's bullshit. Like, everyone can have a cold or not. Like, and everyone can live a happy life. Like, just because somebody's made it or whatever, first of all, you don't really know what they're going through anyway. And second of all, it's possible for you as well. And I think, you know, if everybody knew, and I mean, this is what I'm so passionate about, if everybody knew that they were allowed to do what they love, the world would be different. It would be such a different place. There wouldn't be so much anger and hate, because, you know, passion leads to purpose, and purpose is why we're all here. And I just think the more we tell people, you can follow your heart, you can do what you love. And, you know, we touched on this earlier with you can do that. It's possible. You can you have to just turn away from anything that's making you feel like it's not. Oh my God, we need our own, like, radio show or something, Effie. This needs to be like a weekly fixture, I think. I feel like when you come on live, if you're going to come and do the live show, we should, like, let everyone know you need to put 6 hours aside at least, because that's how long it's going to be.
Absolutely. No, I'm totally down for that. There's so many things that we could talk about.
Yeah. And I think there are more people like us, right? And I'm not saying like, oh, we're the best, you know, but there are people in this world who are willing to see it differently. There are people in this world that are willing to make the change, and there are people in this world who are willing to go through what feels hard in order for, you know, for the betterment of the world, really.
I also think as well, like for people listening, I'm sure there's like a variety of people that will hopefully listen to this. I think echo chambers are really important as well. Like, it's very easy in today's society to surround yourself with like-minded people, right? So if you go on your Facebook page or onto your Instagram, it's quite nice if you see, oh yeah, no, all the people kind of around me, we kind of think the same way, and that's great. That's great. But you have to remember that there are people out there who don't think like you, and you can sometimes fall into the trap of the echo chamber. And then that's not progressive either, because then you're not broadening your horizon. So if you look at your Facebook page or your Instagram and you're scrolling through and everyone on there's like, yes, Brexit, take a minute and be like, what about the people that didn't want to leave? What's their point of view and why? Let's have a fully rounded discussion. I just use Brexit as an example because I know that most people have an opinion, but let's look at the difference. Let's try and surround ourselves with people who have different views so that we can either help them to look at it from a different point of view, or we can learn something. Like, I'm under no illusion that it's quite interesting actually. When I go on my Instagram, everyone on there, same kind of mindset. Now when I come onto Facebook, that's where I know I'm going to have some discussions and some different points of view. And that's why I like using my Facebook to try and educate people and to try and start conversation. But that's what it keeps coming back to, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, you know, you're right. Sometimes it's right to align yourself to people that have a similar mindset. I think when you're trying to achieve something, right? I'm definitely in groups like that around spiritual development because that lights me up, right? Yeah. But I think when it comes to world views, and actually I struggle to have an opinion because I really do see I see both sides in so many things that I end up going, I don't know what I think, because I agree with you and I agree with you, so I don't fucking know. I'm in the middle. I'll just stay on my fence.
That's another thing. I think it's about getting people to understand also that some things there aren't two sides to. Like if we're talking about racism, there aren't two sides to that. It's that simple. This is human rights. This is the experience. The statistics and the facts and the experience do not lie. That is how it is. Yeah. And the same with women at the moment when we're talking about the discussion with men. And also, I just really want to say, I'm very, very blessed to have wonderful men in my life. I just want to quickly just touch on this again because I'm very, very blessed and very appreciative of the guys that I have in my life. And they've all responded so well to everything that we've been talking about over the last week or so. And I think it's really important that men are holding their friends accountable for little tiny things that you wouldn't think made a difference, whether it's wolf whistling at someone down the street, a joke, things like that. It's little discussions and conversations around those things that can lead to bigger things and that are within that culture for men. And I think it's really important that guys do hold other guys accountable and help bring that change forward so that the responsibility no longer lies with women, because that's where the issue is at the moment. We're not saying that, or of course we're not saying that all men are trash and all men are doing these awful things. We know that, but we don't know which ones are. And when the statistics state that 87% of domestic abuse is by men, women only hold 3.4% of the prison population. That alone tells you something, you know. Yeah. Don't lie. We're not saying that women are not capable of violence. We're not saying that women don't attack men. We're not saying that. But when the statistics are disproportionate in the other direction, we have to pay attention to that. And I think that's really, really important.
Absolutely. I saw someone use an analogy this week and they were like, of course it's not all men. And, you know, she said the same as you. She said, I've got some amazing men in my life and they've actually stepped up and spoken up, you know, since this has all come about. But she said, you know, if I'm walking into a swarm of wasps, not all of those wasps are going to sting me, but some of them will, and I don't know which ones. So I'm just not going to go into that swarm. I'm just not going to put myself in that situation. And I think that's it, isn't it? It's like, it shouldn't even be a consideration.
Yeah.
It should be the other way around. It should be so rare, and it just isn't. And
especially with our daily experiences, like you said earlier, when you were in Iron Apple, what you experience, and it's actually like, it's like a, what do they used to call it, lad culture. Like, oh yeah, it's like, okay, well, let's start to change that. And there has been a shift and a change, I think, since I was younger to now, for sure.
Yeah.
There's still a long way to go, and there are lots of things that just are not acceptable. And there are so many women like you and I've been sexually assaulted more than once.
Yeah.
And I'm 29 years old, and I know that there's many other women who are my age, younger and older, who've probably had that experience too. And that speaks volumes. It speaks volumes. Again, like I say, the statistics don't lie. So
yeah, no, absolutely. I absolutely agree. My God, we covered so much. Hooray for us. I want to bring it back to your music just to close. I would love to hear what you've got coming up. We're obviously going to put some links into the show notes for anyone that wants to check out your music, but what are you excited about right now? What does your next 12 months look like? What can we look forward to hearing from you?
Well, it's been a difficult time. Obviously, pandemic slows things down, things aren't open, can't do live shows, etc. But I'm working with some really incredible people at the moment. I've got incredible friends that I can work with every day, which is amazing. And so really, I'm focusing on getting a project together. Can't really talk about it. It's really annoying. But
I love that. I love it.
I'm hopefully going to have a really exciting project coming forward, which is going to in turn hopefully lead to me doing many live shows next year, and touring potentially. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm going to be kind of just developing the brand, writing with other people. I've got some dance cuts that are hopefully coming out, working with a couple of my favorite dance house producers, that kind of vibe, as well, because I love dance music, so I like to try and wear both hats. And just honing my craft and just developing as an artist. But by next year I will be back out live as Effie, if all goes to plan. I'm hoping to go to a couple of other countries as well to record and get these projects done. I can't say anything, it's really annoying, but yeah, fingers crossed it all comes through, and if it does, I will not be disappointing you all, I hope.
No, I already know that you won't. I think I love your music, and anyone who's listening, if you're on my Facebook, you'll see I do share whenever Effie puts anything out. I always share it because I'm just so proud to know you, and it's such an honor as well. It's always an honor just to see anybody in their zone and in their lane doing what they love and doing what lights them up from the soul. So I'm always a huge fan of supporting that.
And thank you for being there at the beginning, because it's the people that help you do that at the beginning that help mold you into what you do, and you're a part of my journey, so thank you.
There you go. Well, that's why you're going to buy me a mansion one day. Like, obviously, it's just
a long list of people.
It works. I definitely remember requesting that. I think at one point I was like, because I knew you were going to do it. Oh my God, Effie, thank you so much. To everybody listening, I'm going to be asking Effie, like I said, to join us in the Facebook group, and hopefully we'll get Effie back on for a live Q&A as well. So if you guys want to come on, I think it would be cool to get you to sing for us as well on the live show. So we'll set that up, and you guys can come and jam with Effie and I. But it's been such a thrill to speak to you again, to have you on the show. So thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
To everyone listening, remember, confidence is yours as soon as you choose it. Just decide to be the change you want to see in the world. It's such a cliche, but that is how we're going to create this change. And I hope that these conversations have helped you really think about that. I'll be back again with another episode very, very soon. Look after yourselves and take care wherever you are in the world. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Don't forget that I am live every Thursday at 8 p.m. over in our Facebook group, which is called the Confidence Academy Podcast Facebook group. and I go live every 8 p.m. for a live Q&A, and of course this week my special guest will be Effie. So if you have any questions or comments following this episode, we would love to see you there. Just get into the Facebook group and we will see you at 8 p.m. on Thursday. In the meantime, look after yourselves, have a wonderful week, and I'll be back again soon.